see you, Donna.
On Tuesday, October 14th, a woman accumulated up to $20,000 worth of damages to a subway in Alaska when she walked into the establishment disrobed and began destroying chairs, tables, ceiling fans, and defecated on the floor. 35-year-old Nikki Apple was arrested on the charges of third-degree criminal mischief, indecent exposure, and resisting arrest, as reported by KTVA CBS 11 News. You don't hear of instances like this happening often, but it's important to know why people do things like this to prevent them from doing it again. My name is Cindy Larimore, and today I'm going to inform you about the popular use of synthetic drugs and why people continue to use them despite the dangers they pose. Synthetic marijuana is what this woman was thought to be on at the time of the aforementioned incident. It is becoming more prevalent and poses a serious threat to the public. First, let me start by clarifying what I mean by synthetic drugs. Most people would think that synthetic drugs would be any kind of drug created in a lab rather than being naturally found, like marijuana. But by this definition, most popular and illegal drugs like LSD, meth, and even all pharmaceuticals will be considered synthetic drugs. When I say synthetic drugs, I'm referring to chemical compounds that are experimentally created. These experimentally created chemical compounds are created with the intention of replicating the effects of common recreational drugs such as marijuana and meth. There are too many synthetic drugs out there to put all of them in a list, but according to narconon.org, all synthetic drugs can be put into two categories: bath salts and synthetic marijuana. Today I will be talking about the second category, more specifically known by cannabinoids. Cannabinoids are chemically formulated versions of synthetic marijuana that consist of lab-manufactured THC, as quoted by AlgenHealthDepartment.com. More specifically, USNews.com describes synthetic marijuana as being dried plants such as oregano and basil, sprayed with various chemicals that, when smoked, bind to the receptors of the brain, just as regular marijuana would. Synthetic marijuana goes by several different names, with spice and K2 being the most popular. CBSNews.com reports a dramatic increase in calls to poison control centers in the past year alone due to overdoses of spice. More than 2,300 people came into the emergency room in New York alone due to overdoses of the spice in only 2 months' time. Synthetic marijuana has a lot of the same effects as regular cannabis, but the side effects of using spice are much more potent than that of marijuana. USNews.com confirms this by saying that marijuana's bond to brain receptors are up to 1,000 times more powerful than that of regular cannabis. The effects brought on by using spice usually tend to last longer than cannabis, lasting up to hours or even days. Cannabinol is a naturally occurring ingredient found in cannabis. This ingredient helps to negate the more severe and insane side effects that can be brought on by smoking marijuana. It's because of cannabinol that most people associate marijuana with being hungry and tired. And because spice doesn't have the natural cannabinol, there's no kind of natural defense to stop you from getting naked and destroying Subway. So, because it lacks this, there's no kind of natural defense. Both spice and marijuana negatively affect your short-term memory, motivation, ability to reason, stamina, and learning ability. Symptoms of abusing spice, as listed on narcon.org, are hallucinations, overstimulation, chest pains, paranoia, aggression, and overheating of the body, causing a person usually to tear off their clothes. Less severe symptoms would include agitation, anxiety, sweating, inability to speak, and restlessness. Unlike marijuana, spice is physically addictive. Synthetic marijuana is not only dangerous to the user, but to those in the direct vicinity of users. Narcon.org has several incidences listed proving this point, including one about a Hawaiian man who, after using spice, tried to throw his girlfriend off of a balcony 11 floors up. So you may think, after hearing about all the terrible things that can cause you to do when you use synthetic marijuana, why people would still choose to use it. It's not illegal to use synthetic marijuana, for one thing. This is because it's virtually impossible to to outlaw it. This being because there's no set formula used to create any of these synthetic marijuana or any synthetic drug in general. AlgenHealthDepartment.com reports of one state trying to outlaw a large group of specific chemicals that they think goes into making synthetic marijuana, but without actually having a list of what they use to make the spice. They can't altogether ban that in the state. So what happens is the authorities only know of certain chemicals, but every time that they get like a complete list of what drug dealers are using to make the spice, and they outlaw that, the drug dealers are already moving on making a new formula to make spice that's completely different from the banned one, so they can continue to keep making it. But because of these constant changes to it, it poses increased risk to users because no one knows of the new chemical combination and how it will react to you when used. At the beginning of my speech, I said that it was only thought that the woman, Nikki Arville, acted as she did because it was thought that she was under the influence of spice. But there's no way to know for sure because synthetic drugs do not show up in drug tests. This is one of the most appealing and dangerous characteristics of synthetic drugs. Synthetic marijuana will not show up in drug tests because the authorities do not know what to look for when they are testing for these drugs. They can test for certain drugs, but without knowing what all of them are, it can't be said for certain that when these people take the test that this is for sure what this person was using at the time. This is extremely dangerous because people have no way of knowing what chemicals they are taking. Each batch can be different. Synthetic marijuana is very easily accessible. It is sold in convenience stores with deceptive labeling on them, marketing them as potpourri, fish food, and herbal mixes. They are also clearly marked as not for human consumption. These can be bought, as I said, in convenience stores, gas stations, and USNow.com reports them being imported into the United States from Russia and China. They are also very easily accessible from the internet. Synthetic marijuana is considerably cheaper than real marijuana. USNews.com confirms that you can get a whole bag of it for only $5, which is enough to make several joints. Synthetic marijuana is very dangerous, and with people's easy access to it and ignorance of what it truly is and what it can do, it will only become more prevalent and dangerous. My name is Cindy Larimore, and I've informed you about the popular use of synthetic drugs and why people are continuing to use them despite the threats that I just listed for you. Even though it's difficult for the authorities to ban these drugs, they can hopefully help to educate the general public about their effects, and it hopes that people will quit using them.